Hey, good morning, folks, from Kit and I. So, yeah, he doesn't like to be picked up, as you have gathered by now. He just hangs here like a supermarket bag until I let him down again. But he's with us, nevertheless. Right. So here we are, another week and another artwork. Right, we are still doing on the sea vibe, on the ocean and all to do with it. And this week I'm going to be visiting a subject that I had tackled in a number of pieces some years ago now, and I'm going to revisit that of the tidal pool at Ballito. So yes, this is going to be an interesting one. I'm doing it differently this time, obviously with color. The previous ones were all purely charcoal and white pastel and a little bit of Conte, black and white, but predominantly a black and white piece. So this time I'm going to be adding some subtle color as well. This time it won't be so much of the blue, so I can save on my blues, but there'll be a fair amount of sort of yellowy sand of the base, the bottom of the tidal pool. So it's going to be an interesting composition too. Now you're going to have to bear with me on this. Those of you who are conventional in your thinking, not to expect the expected always, please. Don't always be expecting something that you expect to see in the way you expect to see it. This is my way. I'm changing things up a little, and because I can. Anyway, well, before we do continue any further, if you are sitting there watching me, thank you very much. And I'd also appreciate it if you hit the little button that says share down at the bottom in the middle of your screen, if you're not in full screen mode, of course. I really would appreciate that too. So yes, without further ado, right, I actually need to be almost, what are you off to there, Kit Kat? It's a mosquito or something. Whatever. Okay. Right, I need to get my bearings here. Oh, it's about halfway. Sorry about that. That diesel engine that you can hear running is Kit Kat, by the way, just in case you wondered if you can hear it. Not sure if you can. He's just obviously enjoying the company. Yeah. Aren't you, Kit Kat? Okay, now he's more interested in this little bug that he's seen on the floor. Anyway. stop talking now because I'm concentrating quite hard. I had to concentrate quite hard on getting this composition sorted out. So this is basically as you enter into the tidal pool, and you have, if you imagine the tidal pool does, well, there's a wall down this one side here. As you enter into the tidal pool, and there's a sort of a ramp, and then there's this balustrade, this steel, well, the stainless steel balustrade. It's been there for many years, and it's all sort of wonky and what have you, but it's still very shiny and what have you, despite that. And it's kind of just walking, and then you've got this fairly shallow, well, you're in the shallow end, so you walk into the water. It's sort of I suppose it's just above sort of knee deep, and then as you walk further out, and it just dissipates off the page, but it yeah, so we've got this shallow mass of water over here, with lots of reflections and what have you. So we've got busyness on this side, and something that is just very bland on that side. And I'm looking to find that nice little balance where these two, where the busy and the bold work with the bland and the sort of uneventful. We've got this sort of slightly rippled surface, but we've got some interesting light play over there as well, but it's much more subtle. So we've got bold this side, subtle that side. So it's going to be a very interesting piece, and an interesting challenge for me as well, which I'm going to very much enjoy, I believe. I have tackled this piece from a very similar, well, the same angle, excuse me, but I haven't depicted it in quite the same way. So this is going to be interesting to see how it turns out in that regard. these great big boulders on this left hand side. Big black boulders encrusted with little clam shells and oyster shells or whatever they are, and barnacles and what have you. So there's lots of contrast on this side. We've got this bright silver balustrade on this side on the left. Okay. All right, I've got the gist of that. So no big crashing waves and surf and what have you, but something a lot more subtle. Playful almost, actually, when I think of it. Playful in terms of its approach, playful, unexpected. For that, especially for those of you who haven't seen the previous ones I did. And in terms of the seascape, it's very much a departure of the recent pieces that I've been working with. So, as I said, no crashing waves and what have you. But lots of interesting reflections and refractions and shadows and reflections of shadows and refractions of shadows and blah 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 blah, whatever's in this piece. So it's going to be quite interesting to work with it. So I'll be spending most of my time working up this side, but I have a feeling that it's actually going to be this expanse that's going to take a lot of time as well. yes, but as I said, quite an interesting challenge. And speaking of challenges, I am Carlos once again. Yes. So on the way up to the Midlands on Saturday morning, I got most of the way there, and then my car decided to overheat. So at this point, my trusty jam jar is stuck in at a friend's place in the Midlands. Till I can, I don't know, sort something out. It is what it is, as I say. Yeah, these challenges we face are meant to be. It's how we approach them that is what counts. I guess the important thing about challenges, especially the most challenging things, is to look at the situation objectively and go, right, I'm all stressed and worked up about the situation. Is it helping me? Yes or no? No. It's not helping me, and is there anything that I can do about it right now? No. So why stress about it? I don't know yet what the full implications are of the overheating of the car, what it represents, what it will cost, or anything at this stage. So I choose not to allow it to affect me at this point, because there's just no point in having it do so. Right, I'm going to now start to just work with this big rock. One of these big boulders, the main one in fact, so and then round about the waterline, there, the sort of average medium of the waterline, the level of the tide, is this little row of barnacles there and again up there. The perspective of this piece you'll start to see emerge as I work with it. Now it just looks like very odd and warped, but it's not. It'll start to make sense as we progress. At this stage, the composition is mostly in place, believe it or not. So most of the work on this piece will be the black and white contrast, and then there's going to be some very, very subtle color added. Just a few hues of yellow and ochre. Those of you who are familiar with, maybe grew up in Ballito or would go to the beach there or whatever, would be familiar. If you've ever been to this tidal pool, you would know exactly at a point this will make absolute sense. Those of you who are from elsewhere, perhaps in the world, who aren't familiar, this piece will only start to make sense further down the line. The objective, as with all of my work, is to work with the senses, is to work with the story. What is the story? What is your story? See, I was having this conversation yesterday briefly with my friend Dan in Australia, who is working with producing some music, some wonderful songs, beautiful lyrics, and what have you. And it's about, you know, the there's, and I keep on talking about this because it's important to grasp when as the observer, I'm interpreting basically what I see, using a reference image to a degree on this piece, just to get composition and so on, and I'm interpreting the vibe, the feeling of the water, etc., from a perspective of a sensory perception. And this feeling of this, you can imagine the cold of the balustrade, perhaps the warmth of the big black rock that's been absorbing the sunlight, and the cool waters around your knees, the subtle reflections in the water as it makes its patterns on the sand beneath your feet. That's the story that I'm kind of interpreting onto my paper here. You, as the observer sitting on the other side of the lens, on the other side of the video, have your own interpretation based on your experience, be it of this specific location, or be it just as a perhaps a memory of this kind of place, of a shallow tidal pool, or just evocative of that feeling of, you know, these little ripply water and rocks, and the sounds, little bubbles coming from the encrusted barnacles and what have you on the rocks, and you can hear the surf roaring in the background just on the other side of these boulders, and the sheltered, and this is kind of one of the things that I want to translate with this piece, is that this, you know, you've got this secluded, protected area. That's what a tidal pool is about. So the walls are built and whatever to kind of protect you from this pounding, churning surf that can suck you out and drown you or whatever. So you can just paddle around. Kids can play and all that kind of thing. It's calm. It's tranquil. But yet, just on the other side of it is this surging, heaving Indian Ocean, and that's kind of encapsulated in this very again, it's a very tight, intimate space. It's not even the entire tidal pool. It's just a little part of it. It's where you enter in. So you've got this protection, strength, support with the balustrade, and then over here you've got this calming, soothing, almost Zen-like look, with these little light patterns of light playing on the sand beneath, you know, 2 feet down. That's what I'm getting to. So that's my business. Your business is interpreting that. And just like with as with art, so with music as well. We all have our own interpretation of a particular song, its lyrics, what they represent, and all of that. It's all in language. Lyrics are in language, yes, of course. Art is interpreted in language. Music, a tune, is interpreted in language. So yes, for those of us who are seeking to create, and don't get me wrong, we are always creating, whether we call ourselves artists or artisans or whatever it is, we are all creative without exception, and we are exceptionally creative. So whether we call ourselves that or not, we are. We're always creating, and then what we create is then perhaps is then interpreted by others. Some of us, it takes a little bit of guts to actually put ourselves out there, to put ourselves under the spotlight. I don't really have a problem with that, simply because I know my abilities now. You know, I'm quite happy with where things are going. I'm still learning every single day about myself and my abilities and what have you. So it's always fantastic to have encouragement. Other people perhaps have greater challenges in terms of getting out there and sharing, but the sharing is also the therapy, and perhaps building anew, or facing your what you think what you think you couldn't do before, and going, yeah, hey, let me just give this a bash, and while I'm at it, let me share it with the world. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that these days, where people are simply just sharing their experience of life and how they're doing it. And perhaps in that way, I mean, that's why you get these influencers, social media influencers that, well, I don't know, for some in some kind of in some cases dodgier than others, but sorry. But nevertheless, taking the plunge, and then you get the naysayers, you get those people who go, well, you this and you that and you useless, but hey, the naysayers are the ones that are doing nothing. The naysayers are the ones that are too afraid to come out there and show their nakedness to the world. Not in a literal sense, but yeah. So it's, as I said, it takes a lot of guts sometimes to come out and just share. But as I've mentioned before, what with this change in the world, with pandemics and whatnot, strife, unemployment, businesses closing down, businesses being inhibited because of lockdown and so on and so forth, people losing their jobs. We have to work together, and we have to be open. We have to bare our souls to the world, because if nobody knows what our challenges are, how can they help us? How can somebody else help us? Not that we're all shouting out for help, but the thing is that others will always, and help just comes in the form of encouragement, simple encouragement, going, hey, yeah, well done, friend, and that's not, and that comes naturally to all of us, I think. It's not a thing that's necessarily forced. I guess it might be in some instances where, well, let me encourage this person too, because I can then get out of them what I want. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about authentic people. So, and I've completely forgotten the actual gist of my, what I've been saying here, is that, oh yes, so we're talking about interpreting, how we interpret what we see and why, and in the different senses. So as I was saying, I'm having this conversation with Dan. He's a musician, well, tackling his challenges and through music and getting it out there and sharing it, and it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But not just sharing the finished product, and that's what I was saying as well. And this applies to me as well. So it's not just about sharing the finished product. Well, there you go, it's done. Here I am sharing the whole experience with you. I mean, yes, I'm rambling on and I talk a lot and what have you, and throughout the hour session, and there's 5 sessions or 4 sessions to an artwork, which many people don't want to necessarily take the time out to watch, to listen, and others do. The point is that I'm sharing my experience, not, yes, with how this artwork comes together, but also my thinking as I go. And that's my experience as well. So what I'm thinking is what I'm sharing, but I'm vocalizing it. I'm putting it out there. Whether anybody's listening or not is really irrelevant. And whether anybody takes it to heart is irrelevant. The point is that I am sharing it. I am verbalizing it. I am starting to work with it and make sense with it, and yeah, it's my process. As is Dan, working with just playing a few chords and maybe it's 20 seconds or a minute of a new piece that he's working on, and he hasn't even got, maybe hardly got lyrics, just basically setting the tune. So just humming, the melody, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's so refreshing to see that stuff. As I said to Dan, at least you can't do the Milli Vanilli. You can't cheat this stuff. You can't go, well, hey, this is mine. Look at it. It's finished. And look at, I can't cheat that stuff. We can't lip sync stuff that's already been shared out there for all the world to see. Anyway, the point is about sharing. I'm sharing my journey. There are loads of people sharing their journeys on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, wherever, sharing their special, unique journeys. And I'm always going to be interested in somebody else's journey. So why wouldn't somebody else be interested in mine? But that's not the reason I'm doing it, for the purpose of togetherness. Maybe to encourage others to do the same, or to also start getting stuck into doodling. My big thing is about doodling. So yeah, doodle. Look at me. I'm sitting using doodles here. Now that I've got my composition, hey, I can just talk away and just scribble, and it's slowly, and as I'm talking, it's working, it's happening, it's coming together. I've been talking my way through this virtually entire piece so far, and I'll continue to do so ad nauseum for the next 4 sessions or 4 or 5 sessions. So Yeah, that's the fun of it, you know. Just being, I don't know, the bare bones of it, the bare bones of my experience. And it's like, why did reality shows start in the first place? Because people are keen to get into other people's beeswax. I don't know. What is this morbid fascination with the Kardashians? Are their lives really any different from ours in terms of, no, but it's not about that. And the why we watch is, I don't watch nothing to do with the Kardashians, by the way. But the thing is that why we watch what other people do, and we get all involved in other people's business, be it the Kardashians or the royal family, and is because we see it's something mirrored in what we see. It's reflected, and we go, well, yeah, even these people who are sort of stratospheric are also have life challenges just as we do. It's nothing special. So we find similarities. We find, I guess it's almost a sense of camaraderie in that. And that knowledge that, hey, somebody else has also got the same challenges I do. After all, hey, my life isn't so bad. Even if you've got millions of dollars in your bank account, and you have a whole, 10, 12 supercars, limousines, and what have you, and you've got Learjets, but you've still got those basic human challenges, and that's why those things have become so popular in sharing. Documentaries about other cultures. Heck, we find similarities with our own lives and all of that. It's not just about escapism. See, perhaps in previous decades, you would get these CD-ROMs where people would sell let's say, for example, I'm showing how to do charcoal and pastel art. So I would put together a series of workshops, but I'm simply explaining what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I'm not sharing my experience, and it just becomes about that, and very well formulated, put together. We've got music and we've got funny, stuff that goes on, and here it's, as I said, I was doing it previously live on Facebook Live. This is also kind of live. I don't feel it's any different from having done it on Facebook Live. Is that? But now it's not. I've become relaxed with being able to share my experience, and whether I post it up a little later or not is not relevant. I'm posting my real experience, barest. I don't have any fancy equipment and sound, and it's just bang, there it is. My cell phone is recording this. I don't have special lighting, and I've got a table lamp over there. I've got the overhead light over there, and I've got the little LED on my phone, lighting the so I've got shadow on my face and whatever because I've got my hat on, and of course I'm still sort of glary eyed from waking up early. I haven't spent half an hour in makeup having my face powdered. No, but we can do this, and we can share it, and we can do it in a moment. It's not contrived. It's not something different from what we, something that we think others want to see. I think that's the beauty of doing things this way. Hey, Kit Kat, don't you agree? Yeah? Don't you agree? Right. Yeah. See, previously, when I was doing these pieces, I was simply showing the final piece. I might have shared a couple of images taken periodically along the route as I worked on each piece, but predominantly you weren't seeing how it started to come together. And that's why doing it this way now is it's made a huge difference to me as well, because while I'm doing it, I'm explaining what I'm doing. So, case in point, this balustrade is somewhat bent. It's been many years that it's been sitting here, and it's not quite upright. It's kind of leaning almost against the big rock over here. But then where it meets the water level, the water comes from around there. This part is exposed. It's kind of around there, and then it enters the bottom pole of this balustrade enters the water, and then it's sort of refracted. But then it also, where this other pole over here, we won't see it quite yet, but where it enters the water over there, and then it bends suddenly, just as much as you would put, like, let's say you're cleaning a pool, and you've got the big brush on a long pole. Where it enters the water, it suddenly bends. That's called refraction. Refracted light. So that's because the water surface is basically a lens, and it's angled, and therefore where something enters the water, it then changes its angle according to your perspective, where you observe from. And the more acute the perspective or the angle from the water, if you're looking at it from over here, the more upright you are, the less it will be affected. The more that way, the more that bend will be. I'm not explaining that at all well. Sorry. Right. Let me start working a little bit over this way so that you won't feel that I'm just going to leave this blank altogether. No, nonny, no. Oh, for goodness sake, stop it. These little scratchy, hard bits inside the charcoal sticks. So there's an element of abstract to this piece. There really is. This strange looking, you wouldn't expect to see a handrail, a stainless steel handrail next to boulders in the water near the sea. And just, and it just sort of disappears into the sand. It's not like on a building or on at the edge of a walkway or something. It's just there, and then you've got these big boulders, and then you've got just this very subtle, tranquil expanse of water. So fairly abstract in that sense. And yet I'm hoping to depict it in a manner in which it makes sense. Not in true abstract, where you really have to stretch the imagination and you can make up any story you like. There's definitely pictorially there's a story going on here as well. Wow, heck, you just but what's going to be interesting for me with this section over here, this big expanse, is that there's lots of light play, lots of little squiggles and twirls and little subtleties that will make this part just as interesting as this, for me anyway. This is the real story, actually. This is the real story to this piece. This is just a prop, stage prop. It's incidental. This is the tidal pool. This is what you come here for. To wade in. This is just to support your lazy ass because you don't want to go and swim in the ocean. Goodness gracious me, can you please go soft? Scratchy, 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 scratchy. Yeah, irritates the living daylights out of me. As I said, filling in this area is going to take a lot of work. And to view it is quite boring, so I might just have to prattle my way through. Not all of my works are like this. I'm just trying something different in terms of working a little bit more with the abstract. I doubt that there's going to be any need for acrylics in this piece. In fact, there won't be. Whatever highlights there are can be chalk pastel. So I'll be working this piece up, and it's in intensity as a whole, not in areas. I mean, it might have started out that way, but I didn't complete and finish this piece and then move on and to area. So I want to cover the whole surface today as far as I can. But I think looks like we're out of time, folks. Jeepers, how about that? My word. Okay. Goodness gracious me, that took an hour. Wow. Wow, I'm in fact an hour and about 2 or 3 minutes anyway. Alright guys, so that's a wrap for today. Jeez, time flies, eh? Tempus fugit. Hope you've enjoyed the experience so far. Yeah, a rude awakening. Yes, thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining in, and do tune in again tomorrow or whenever else that you choose to watch. But do feel free to comment if you have any comments about what I've been saying, what I've been doing, etc. What anything that comes up for you. Do engage with me. I really appreciate that. So anyway, have a fantastic day further. Oodles of toodles. And I shall see you again tomorrow. Bye. Don't ever forget to doodle.